Rex, a German shepherd with a graying muzzle and a body marked by scars, limped through the alleyways of Detroit, Michigan. His ears, once proud and erect, drooped with the weight of his experiences. Years of abuse and neglect had left him not only physically injured but emotionally broken. The sounds of the bustling city fell silent in his world. His deafness turned the noise into a muffled void, isolating him further from the world. Rex's life had been a continuous struggle for survival. His once majestic coat was patchy, revealing the bony frame beneath. His eyes, cloudy from age and illness, still held a flicker of the loyalty and spirit that German shepherds were known for. But those who glanced at him only saw a lost cause. One rainy afternoon, Rex collapsed behind a dumpster, too weak to continue his aimless wandering. It was here that an animal control officer found him during a routine patrol. The officer's face twisted with pity as he crouched beside the frail dog. "You poor thing," he murmured, slipping a leash around Rex's neck with care. "Let's get you somewhere safe." Rex's journey to the shelter was anything but comforting. The cramped cage in the back of the truck and the antiseptic smell of the shelter reminded him of past traumas. Shelter workers assessed his condition and winced at the severity. The chief veterinarian, Dr. Sarah Thompson, sighed deeply. "He's in critical condition, malnourished, riddled with tumors. And he's deaf." The shelter, already overcrowded and underfunded, struggled to provide even the basics. "We'll give him a week," Sarah said reluctantly. "If there's no improvement, we may need to consider euthanasia. It's the humane thing to do." Days passed, and Rex remained unresponsive, his body too weak to fight back against years of abuse and illness. A note was pinned to his file. "Euthanasia scheduled, Friday." As the dreaded day approached, shelter workers spoke in hushed tones, dreading the decision. "He's had such a tough life," one whispered. "It's almost merciful to let him go." But fate had other plans for Rex. Dr. Michael Carter sat at his desk in the corner of a small examination room at the Detroit Animal Shelter. His desk was cluttered with medical reports, a coffee mug with the words, "Pause and Healing," and a photo of his golden retriever, Bailey, who had passed away years ago. The weight of the decisions he faced every day bore heavily on his broad shoulders. Michael had been a veterinarian for nearly 15 years, but no amount of experience made euthanasia easier. As he flipped through Rex's file, his jaw tightened. The photos of the dog's emaciated frame and the grim list of medical conditions were heart-wrenching. Deaf, cancer-stricken, and emotionally broken. Rex seemed beyond saving. The door creaked open, and Sarah Thompson entered, her expression somber. "Michael, you've seen Rex's case. What's your call?" Michael leaned back in his chair and exhaled deeply. "It's never easy, Sarah, but he's suffering. We'd be ending his pain." His voice wavered slightly, betraying the inner conflict he tried to suppress. Sarah nodded, though her eyes flickered with hesitation. "We've scheduled it for Friday. Unless someone steps in to adopt or sponsor him, there's no other option. He's just too far gone." Later that evening, Michael found himself standing outside Rex's kennel. The dog lay curled in the corner, his breathing shallow, his dull eyes staring into nothingness. Michael crouched down and spoke softly, even though he knew Rex couldn't hear him. "You've been through hell, haven't you, buddy? I wish it didn't have to end this way." His voice cracked, and he looked away, ashamed of the tears welling in his eyes. For the next 2 days, Michael avoided Rex's kennel, focusing instead on the other animals under his care. Yet, every time he saw the note pinned to Rex's file, his heart clenched. The clock was ticking, and Friday loomed closer. On Thursday morning, Michael was performing a routine checkup on a kitten when a shelter volunteer burst into the room. "Dr. Carter, you need to come to the lobby. There's someone here about Rex." Michael's eyebrows shot up. "Rex? Someone's interested in him?" The volunteer nodded, and Michael quickly removed his gloves and headed to the lobby. There, a woman in her mid-30s stood, clutching a folder. She had an air of determination about her, with sharp features and piercing green eyes. "Dr. Carter?" she asked, extending a hand. "I'm Emma Johnson. I work with a local animal rescue network. I heard about Rex, and I'd like to discuss his case." Michael shook her hand, still processing the unexpected turn of events. I appreciate your interest, but Rex's situation is complicated. He's not just a rescue case. He's critically ill. Emma's eyes softened, but her tone remained firm. I understand, but no dog deserves to die without being given a chance. I've worked with cases like his before. If there's even a sliver of hope, I want to try. Michael hesitated, glancing at Rex's file in his hand. He's not just sick. He's deaf, malnourished, and emotionally unresponsive. The tumors, they're aggressive. The odds aren't in his favor. Emma took a step closer, her voice dropping slightly. Odds don't scare me, Dr. Carter. I'm asking for a chance, just one chance to make a difference for him. Michael studied her face, searching for any sign of naivety or insincerity, but all he saw was unwavering resolve. He sighed. All right, let's discuss this in my office. The conversation that followed was tense but productive. Emma presented a detailed plan for Rex's rehabilitation, including partnerships with specialists and a foster care arrangement. Michael laid out the medical challenges, emphasizing the cost and effort required. By the end of the meeting, an agreement was reached. Emma would take full responsibility for Rex, provided she could meet the shelter's requirements by Friday morning. As Emma left the office, Michael watched her go, a glimmer of hope stirring within him. Perhaps Rex's story wasn't over yet. Friday morning arrived with a chill in the air, and the shelter was unusually quiet. Staff moved about their routines with subdued energy, knowing that euthanasia appointments were scheduled for later that day. Rex, curled in the far corner of his kennel, was oblivious to the tension surrounding him. Emma Johnson entered the shelter carrying a large canvas bag over her shoulder. Her boots clacked against the linoleum floor, and her presence immediately caught the attention of Sarah, who approached her with a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. Emma, I assume you're here for Rex? Sarah asked, crossing her arms. Emma nodded firmly. Yes, and I've got everything you requested. I'm here to take him home. Sarah glanced at the paperwork Emma handed over, a meticulous plan detailing Rex's rehabilitation, along with confirmation of funding from her rescue network. You've certainly done your homework, Sarah said, flipping through the documents. But I hope you understand what you're taking on. He's not just sick. He's broken. Emma's expression softened, but her voice remained resolute. That's exactly why I'm here. No animal is beyond saving. I've seen dogs recover from worse. If they're given the right care and patience. Dr. Michael Carter joined them, holding Rex's medical file. He looked at Emma with a cautious sense of hope. Emma, I admire your determination, but I need to make sure you're fully prepared. Rex has an aggressive form of cancer. Even with treatment, his time might be limited. Are you ready for that? Emma met his gaze without hesitation. I know the odds, Dr. Carter, but as long as he's alive, he deserves to know love and care. I'm not giving up on him. Michael sighed and nodded. All right, let's do this. Together, they approached Rex's kennel. Emma crouched down, her movements slow and deliberate, as she studied the dog. His body was frail, and his eyes barely lifted to acknowledge her presence. The sight tugged at her heart, but she refused to let sadness cloud her determination. Hey there, Rex, she said softly, even though she knew he couldn't hear her. She reached into her bag and pulled out a freshly cooked piece of chicken, waving it gently to catch his attention. The scent caused Rex's nose to twitch, and he slowly turned his head toward her. That's it, buddy, Emma whispered. She placed the chicken on the floor just inside the kennel and stepped back, giving him space. Rex hesitated, his body language defensive, but hunger eventually won out. He dragged himself forward and devoured the food in a few bites. Michael watched from the side, his arms crossed. That's the most interest he's shown in days, he murmured. Emma straightened and smiled faintly. It's a start. The process of getting Rex out of the kennel and into Emma's care was not without its challenges. When the kennel door opened, Rex retreated to the farthest corner, baring his teeth in a weak but instinctual display of fear. Emma knelt down again, her posture calm and unthreatening. It's okay, Rex. Nobody's going to hurt you anymore. She spent nearly 30 minutes coaxing him, using soft gestures and bits of chicken to build a fragile sense of trust. Eventually, Rex allowed her to slip a leash around his neck, though his body remained tense. As they walked out of the shelter, staff members paused to watch, some wiping away tears. "He's got a long road ahead," Sarah said quietly. Michael stood beside her, his expression a mixture of relief and worry. "But at least he's got someone willing to fight for him." Emma guided Rex to her car, where she had prepared a cozy space with blankets and a water bowl. As she helped him settle in, she whispered, "We're going to get through this, Rex. One step at a time." The engine roared to life, and as Emma drove away from the shelter, a faint glimmer of hope flickered in Rex's weary eyes. For the first time in years, he wasn't alone. Emma drove cautiously through the streets of Detroit, glancing into the rearview mirror where Rex lay curled on the blanket she had arranged for him. His body remained tense, and his eyes darted around, taking in the unfamiliar environment. Every bump in the road seemed to make him flinch, a stark reminder of the trauma he carried with him. When they arrived at Emma's modest suburban home, she parked the car and carefully opened the back door. "All right, Rex," she said softly, crouching to meet his level. "This is your new beginning." She offered him another small piece of chicken, hoping to coax him out of the car. Rex hesitated, his muscles coiled like a spring, ready to bolt at any sign of danger. Emma remained patient, holding her ground and allowing him to make the decision. After what felt like an eternity, Rex slowly climbed out, his paws tentative on the pavement. Emma smiled faintly. "Good boy. Let's take it slow." The backyard was fenced in, offering Rex a safe space to explore. Emma left the leash on, but gave him slack as he sniffed the grass and inspected the perimeter. She stayed a respectful distance, observing him and noting how he flinched at sudden movements, even the rustling of leaves in the wind. Inside, the house was quiet and warm, with soft rugs and a bed she had set up just for him in the corner of the living room. As they entered, Rex froze, his body language screaming uncertainty. Emma knelt down and placed a few treats on the floor near the bed. "This is your spot, Rex. It's all yours." The first few days were a test of patience. Rex refused to eat when Emma was in the room, waiting until she left before approaching his bowl. He avoided her touch, retreating to his bed anytime she moved too close. The sight of a broom leaning against the wall made him growl low in his throat, a clear sign of past abuse. One evening, Emma sat on the floor across the room, reading aloud from a book about canine rehabilitation. Her voice was calm and steady, not expecting Rex to understand but hoping the sound might offer some reassurance. She glanced up occasionally to see him watching her with guarded eyes. "You've been hurt, Rex," she said softly, closing the book. "But I'm not like the people who hurt you. I just need you to give me a chance." The breakthrough came on the fifth night. Emma was sitting on the couch, working on her laptop, when she felt a soft nudge against her leg. Looking down, she saw Rex standing there, his eyes hesitant but curious. Her heart swelled, and she remained still, not wanting to startle him. "Hey there, buddy," she whispered. Rex sniffed her hand and then stepped back, retreating to his bed. It was a small gesture, but to Emma, it felt monumental. She knew trust would come in small steps, and this was the first one. The next morning, Emma decided to try a new approach. She brought Rex outside, leash in hand, and sat down on the grass. She placed treats around her, hoping to entice him to come closer. At first, Rex stayed at the far end of the yard, pacing nervously. But eventually, he inched forward, his nose twitching as he picked up the scent of the food. "You're doing great, Rex," Emma encouraged, her voice low and steady. When he finally took a treat from her hand, she felt tears prick at her eyes. It wasn't just about the treat. It was about the trust he was beginning to extend toward her. That night, as Emma prepared for bed, she noticed Rex lying in his corner, his head resting on his paws. For the first time since he arrived, his body seemed relaxed. She smiled to herself, knowing this was just the beginning of a long journey. In the quiet of the night, she whispered to him, even though he couldn't hear, "We're going to get through this, Rex. I promise." For the first time, she believed he might be starting to believe it too. The days turned into weeks, and slowly, Rex began to adapt to life in Emma's home. His transformation was not sudden or miraculous. It was painstakingly gradual, built on small victories that Emma celebrated with quiet joy. One morning, Emma woke to find Rex sitting by the kitchen doorway, watching her prepare his food. It was the first time he had shown interest in her beyond fear or suspicion. She smiled, careful not to move too quickly. "Good morning, Rex." "Hungry?" she asked, placing his bowl on the floor and stepping back to give him space. He approached cautiously, his nose twitching as he sniffed the contents. After a few hesitant sniffs, he began eating, his movements less frantic than they had been in those early days. Emma watched from a distance, her heart swelling with hope. "You're getting there, buddy," she whispered. Each small step forward was matched by moments of regression. Loud noises, like the distant roar of a lawnmower or the clatter of a dropped utensil, would send Rex retreating to his bed, trembling. Emma learned to move carefully around him, always announcing her presence with soft words before entering a room. Despite the challenges, Rex's progress was undeniable. He began to follow Emma around the house, maintaining a respectful distance but clearly curious about her routines. In the evenings, he would lie closer to her, his head resting on his paws as he observed her reading or working on her laptop. Emma also worked to reintroduce Rex to positive human touch. She started with short, gentle strokes along his back while he ate, ensuring that he associated her hand with comfort rather than harm. At first, Rex flinched, his body stiffening under her touch. But over time, he began to relax, even leaning slightly into her hand during these moments. One particularly cold evening, Emma sat on the couch with a blanket draped over her legs, sipping tea and reading. She felt a presence beside her and looked down to see Rex standing there, his eyes searching hers. Slowly, he climbed onto the couch and curled up at her feet, resting his head on her ankle. Emma froze, afraid to move and risk breaking the fragile moment. "You're full of surprises, aren't you?" she said softly, reaching down to gently stroke his fur. Rex didn't pull away, his breathing steady and calm. It was the first time he had sought comfort from her, and Emma fought back tears. Dr. Michael Carter visited the following week to assess Rex's physical progress. Rex stood beside Emma, his posture less guarded than before, though he remained wary of Michael's presence. "He looks so much better," Michael remarked, crouching to meet Rex's gaze. Emma nodded. "He's eating regularly now and starting to trust me, but we've still got a long way to go." Michael examined Rex's scars and tumors with a practiced hand. "The good news is the tumors haven't grown significantly. The treatments are holding them at bay for now." He paused, glancing at Emma. "You're doing a remarkable job with him. Not everyone could handle a case like this." Emma shrugged, her expression thoughtful. "He's the one doing the hard work. I'm just here to guide him." Michael smiled faintly. "You're doing more than that. Keep it up." As Michael left, Emma sat down beside Rex on the living room floor, scratching gently behind his ears. "You hear that, buddy? We're making progress." Rex leaned into her touch, his eyes half closed. That night, as Emma lay in bed, she heard a soft thud outside her door. She got up and opened it to find Rex lying there, his tail thumping softly against the floor. He looked up at her with a mix of trust and longing that made her heart ache. "Come on in," she said, stepping aside. Rex padded into the room and settled at the foot of her bed. As Emma drifted off to sleep, she felt a deep sense of gratitude for the progress they had made together. Rex's recovery wasn't just physical. It was a reclamation of his spirit, one small step at a time. The battle against Rex's cancer was as daunting as Emma had anticipated. Dr. Michael Carter devised a treatment plan involving chemotherapy and medications to manage his pain and symptoms. Though the goal was never a cure, they hoped to extend Rex's life while maintaining his quality of life. On a chilly Monday morning, Emma loaded Rex into her car for his first chemotherapy session. The vet clinic was a short drive away, but the journey felt long. Rex sat quietly in the back seat, his head resting on the blanket Emma always kept for him. Though he couldn't hear her, Emma spoke to him softly as she drove. "We're going to see Dr. Carter today, Rex. He's going to help us, okay?" At the clinic, Rex's anxiety was palpable. The sterile smell of the building and the presence of other animals set him on edge. Emma stayed close, keeping her hand on his leash and offering him treats to distract him. "You're safe, buddy," she murmured, crouching to meet his gaze. Dr. Carter greeted them in the exam room, his demeanor calm and reassuring. "Hi, Rex," he said, even though he knew the dog couldn't hear. Turning to Emma, he added, "We'll take it slow. The first session is always the hardest. For both of you." Emma nodded, her jaw tightening as she tried to steel herself. She watched as the vet techs gently restrained Rex and inserted the 4 for the chemotherapy. Rex's body tensed, his eyes wide with fear. Emma knelt beside him, stroking his fur and speaking softly, though she wasn't sure if her presence made a difference. After what felt like an eternity, the session was over. Rex was groggy and unsteady on his feet, and Emma had to help him into the car. On the drive home, she glanced in the rearview mirror, her chest tightening at the sight of his exhausted frame. The following days were tough. Rex experienced nausea and fatigue, often retreating to his bed and refusing food. Emma tried everything to encourage him to eat, from cooking chicken and rice to offering his favorite treats. "Come on, Rex," she said one evening, sitting on the floor beside his bed. "You've come so far. Don't give up on me now." Rex lifted his head slightly, his eyes meeting hers with a flicker of recognition. Slowly, he inched forward and licked the piece of chicken from her hand. Emma exhaled a shaky breath, tears welling in her eyes. "That's it, boy. We're in this together." The financial burden of Rex's treatment was another challenge Emma faced. Although her rescue network helped cover some costs, there were still bills to pay, and Emma had to dip into her savings. She also started a fundraiser, sharing Rex's story online. The response was overwhelming. Messages of support and donations poured in from animal lovers across the country. "Rex's story touched something in me," one donor wrote. "Thank you for giving him a chance." Amid the struggles, there were moments of triumph. After his 3rd chemotherapy session, Rex began to show signs of improvement. His appetite returned, and he started to engage more with Emma, following her around the house and wagging his tail, a small but significant victory. Dr. Carter was cautiously optimistic during their next checkup. "His progress is encouraging," he told Emma as he examined Rex. "The treatment seemed to be working, at least for now. Keep doing what you're doing." Emma nodded, her hand resting on Rex's head. "We'll keep fighting." Later that evening, Emma sat on the couch, her laptop open to the fundraiser page. She scrolled through the messages, tears streaming down her face as she read the words of strangers who had been moved by Rex's journey. Rex lay at her feet, his head resting on her lap. She stroked his fur, her heart swelling with gratitude and resolve. "You're not just surviving, Rex," she whispered. "You're inspiring people. You're showing them what it means to fight." Rex lifted his head slightly, his tail wagging against the floor. It was a moment of connection, a silent understanding between them. The road ahead was still uncertain, but Emma knew one thing for sure: they weren't walking it alone. After months of dedicated care, Rex began to show glimpses of the dog he could have been before his years of abuse and neglect. His coat, though still patchy in places, had regained some of its luster. His frame, once skeletal, now carried a healthy weight. But the true breakthrough wasn't just in his physical recovery, it was in his spirit. Emma decided it was time to introduce training and socialization to Rex's routine. While she had been focusing on building trust between them, Rex's ability to interact with other dogs and people was still uncertain. She enrolled him in a training program run by a local animal behaviorist, Sarah Mitchell, who specialized in rehabilitating traumatized dogs. On their first visit to Sarah's facility, Rex was visibly uneasy. The training space was an outdoor field surrounded by trees, with plenty of space for the dogs to roam and interact. A few other dogs and their handlers were already there, practicing basic commands. Sarah greeted Emma warmly, her kind eyes immediately assessing Rex's body language. "He's come a long way," she remarked, crouching down to let Rex sniff her outstretched hand. "He has," Emma replied, keeping a firm but gentle grip on Rex's leash. "But crowds and new situations still make him nervous." "That's okay," Sarah said with a reassuring smile. "We'll go at his pace. Let's start with some one-on-one work." Emma watched as Sarah guided them through basic exercises, focusing on simple commands like sit and stay. Rex's responses were hesitant at first, his attention darting to every sound and movement around him. But with Sarah's calm guidance and Emma's encouragement, he began to focus. "Good boy, Rex," Emma exclaimed when he finally sat on command. She offered him a treat, her smile widening as his tail gave a small wag. Over the next few weeks, Rex's confidence grew. He started responding to commands more reliably and even began to show curiosity about the other dogs in the program. Emma felt a surge of pride every time he approached another dog without retreating or showing signs of fear. One afternoon, during a supervised play session, a young Labrador bounded up to Rex, wagging its tail enthusiastically. Rex stiffened, his ears twitching slightly as he assessed the situation. Emma held her breath, ready to intervene if needed. But to her surprise, Rex lowered his head and sniffed the Labrador cautiously. Sarah, watching from a distance, nodded in approval. "That's a big step," she said to Emma. "He's starting to trust not just you, but his surroundings." The training sessions also gave Emma a chance to connect with other dog owners. Many of them were drawn to Rex's story, offering words of encouragement and admiration for his progress. "You're an inspiration," one woman said, stroking her golden retriever's head. "It takes so much patience and love to do what you've done for him." Emma smiled, her gaze softening as she watched Rex interact with a gentle beagle across the field. "He's the one teaching me," she replied. As Rex's socialization improved, Emma began taking him to a local park known for its dog-friendly spaces. At first, she kept him on a leash, allowing him to observe the other dogs from a safe distance. Gradually, as his comfort level increased, she let him off-leash in a fenced area. One day, while at the park, a young boy approached Emma, his eyes wide with curiosity. "Is he your dog?" the boy asked, pointing to Rex, who was sniffing around a tree. "He is," Emma replied, smiling. "What happened to him?" "He looks kinda sad." Emma hesitated, choosing her words carefully. "Rex has had a tough life, but he's getting better. He's really brave." The boy nodded solemnly, then looked at Rex with a newfound admiration. "You're a good dog," he said softly. Rex, as if understanding the boy's words, approached him and sniffed his outstretched hand. The boy giggled, and Emma felt her heart swell. Moments like these reminded her why she had fought so hard for Rex. That evening, as they returned home, Emma reflected on how far Rex had come. From a fearful, broken soul to a dog who could now wag his tail and make new friends, his transformation was nothing short of extraordinary. "You're amazing, Rex," Emma said as they sat on the porch, watching the sunset. Rex rested his head on her knee, his eyes calm and content. In that moment, Emma knew Rex wasn't just healing, he was thriving. As Rex continued to recover, Emma knew it was time to take the next step, finding him a permanent home. The thought of parting with him was bittersweet, but Emma understood that her role had always been to help him heal and prepare him for a new chapter in his life. She reached out to her rescue network and posted Rex's story online, carefully crafting the message. The post included pictures of Rex, before and after his transformation, along with a heartfelt plea. Rex has faced unimaginable challenges, but he's proven that love and care can heal even the deepest wounds. Now, he's ready for a family who will cherish him for the incredible dog he is. If you have a quiet home and a lot of patience, Rex might be the companion you've been looking for. Applications flooded in, but Emma was meticulous in her screening process. She wasn't just looking for a family, she was searching for the family. Each interview was thorough, with Emma visiting potential homes to ensure they could provide the environment Rex needed. One afternoon, Emma received an application that caught her attention. It was from the Thompson family, a couple in their early 40s with 2 teenage children. Their application was detailed and heartfelt, describing their love for dogs and their quiet suburban lifestyle. Most importantly, they had experience with senior rescue dogs, which Emma knew was crucial for Rex's continued well-being. Emma arranged a meeting at a local park, where the Thompsons could meet Rex in a neutral and stress-free environment. When the day arrived, Emma felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She brought Rex to the park, keeping him on a leash as they waited for the family to arrive. "Hi, you must be Emma," a warm voice called out. Emma turned to see the Thompsons approaching. A tall man with salt and pepper hair, his wife with kind eyes, and their two children, a boy and a girl, both holding leashes attached to their Labrador and Border Collie. "Nice to meet you," Emma said, shaking hands with them. She gestured to Rex, who was sitting beside her. His ears perked up, but his body language relaxed. "And this is Rex." The family crouched down to Rex's level, letting him approach them at his own pace. The girl, who appeared to be about 14, extended her hand with a treat. "Hi, Rex," she said softly. "You're so handsome." Rex hesitated for a moment, then sniffed her hand before taking the treat gently. Emma felt a surge of hope. Over the next hour, the Thompsons interacted with Rex under Emma's watchful eye. The parents asked thoughtful questions about his medical needs, and the children were patient and gentle, allowing Rex to set the pace of their interactions. As they walked back to the parking lot, Emma spoke to the family. "He's come a long way, but he still needs a lot of patience and understanding. He's not the kind of dog who'll run up and play fetch right away. But he has so much love to give, in his own quiet way." The Thompsons exchanged a look, and the father nodded. "We understand. We'd be honored to give him the home he deserves." Emma's throat tightened as she smiled. "Let's schedule a home visit. If everything checks out, we can move forward." The following week, Emma brought Rex to the Thompsons' home for a trial period. Their house was spacious and calm, with a large fenced backyard and cozy corners perfect for a dog like Rex. The family took care to follow Emma's instructions, giving Rex space to adjust while gradually introducing him to their routines. On the second day of the visit, Emma received a call from Mrs. Thompson. "I just wanted to share something," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "Rex followed my husband into his office this morning and lay down by his desk. It's like he's already part of the family." Emma smiled through her tears. "That's wonderful to hear. I think this might be the perfect match." By the end of the week, Emma officially signed the adoption papers. As she handed Rex's leash to the Thompsons, she knelt down and stroked his fur one last time. "You're going to be so loved, Rex. I'll miss you, but this is your time now." Rex nuzzled her hand, his eyes meeting hers in a moment of quiet understanding. As Emma drove away, she felt a mixture of sadness and overwhelming pride. Rex had been given a second chance, and she knew in her heart that he was exactly where he was meant to be. The Thompsons quickly settled into life with Rex, finding their rhythm as a family with a dog who required both patience and compassion. For Rex, the transition was smoother than Emma could have imagined. While he was still cautious, he began to show signs of trust and affection toward his new family. One morning, Mr. Thompson, an architect who worked from home, noticed Rex lying near his desk as he reviewed blueprints. The dog's presence was quiet yet reassuring, as if he had taken on the role of silent companion. "You like it here, don't you, boy?" Mr. Thompson said, reaching down to pat Rex's head. Rex leaned into the touch, his tail giving a soft wag. The children, Lily and Ethan, were equally enamored with Rex. They spent afternoons sitting on the living room floor, reading or doing homework while Rex dozed beside them. Lily, who had a knack for photography, began documenting moments with Rex, his first tentative play with their Labrador, his contented naps in the sunlit backyard, and his rare but precious tail wags. "Mom, look at this one," Lily said one evening, showing her mother a photo of Rex lying under the shade of an oak tree, his expression serene. "Doesn't he look happy?" Mrs. Thompson smiled warmly. "He does. I think he knows he's finally safe." Despite the progress, there were still challenges. Loud noises or sudden movements could send Rex retreating to his corner in the living room. But the family respected his boundaries, allowing him the time and space he needed to feel secure. One particularly poignant moment came during a family walk in the park. Rex, now accustomed to the routine, walked calmly alongside Mr. Thompson, his leash loose as they strolled along the trail. A young boy approached, holding his mother's hand. "Can I pet your dog?" the boy asked shyly. Mr. Thompson hesitated, glancing down at Rex. "He's a little nervous around new people," he explained gently. But before he could say no, Rex surprised him. The dog stepped forward, sniffing the boy's outstretched hand. The boy giggled and gently patted Rex's head. "He's really soft." The mother smiled. "What a sweet dog." He looked so wise. As they continued their walk, Mr. Thompson couldn't shake the feeling that Rex was more than just a dog. He was a symbol of resilience and quiet strength. The bond between Rex and the Thompsons deepened with each passing day. Ethan, who had struggled with anxiety, found comfort in Rex's calm presence. "It's like he knows when I'm nervous," Ethan told his mother one evening. "He just sits next to me, and it makes me feel better." Mrs. Thompson nodded, her eyes glistening. "That's what makes him special. He's been through so much, but he still has so much love to give." As the family grew closer to Rex, Emma remained a supportive figure in the background. She visited occasionally, always greeted by a wagging tail and affectionate nuzzles. Seeing Rex thrive brought her immense joy, affirming that her decision to place him with the Thompsons had been the right one. One evening, as the family gathered around the fireplace, Ethan turned to his parents. "Do you think Rex knows how much we love him?" Mrs. Thompson reached over to stroke Rex's fur, her voice soft but confident. "I think he does, sweetheart. And I think he loves us too." Rex, as if on cue, lifted his head and rested it on Ethan's lap. The boy beamed, wrapping his arms gently around the dog. In moments like these, it was clear that Rex had found not just a home, but a family who saw him for the remarkable soul he was. As the years passed, Rex's place in the Thompson family became unshakable. He had transformed from a fearful, broken dog into a loyal and loving companion. While his past had left physical and emotional scars, it also shaped the extraordinary resilience that defined him. One summer afternoon, the family gathered in their backyard to celebrate Rex's 3rd anniversary with them. The children had strung up decorations, and the table was filled with snacks for both humans and dogs. Their other pets played around the yard, but Rex lay under the shade of the oak tree, his favorite spot. Lily approached him with a soft smile, holding a small cupcake topped with a single candle. "This is for you, Rex," she said, kneeling beside him. She leaned down to whisper, "You've made our lives so much better. We love you, buddy." As the family sang a cheerful happy anniversary, Rex looked around, his gaze calm and content. His tail wagged softly against the grass, a quiet but unmistakable sign of his joy. Despite the celebrations, the family remained acutely aware of Rex's ongoing battle with cancer. The treatments had given him more time than anyone had initially hoped, but the disease was relentless. Dr. Carter had been upfront about the eventual decline they would face, and the Thompsons braced themselves for the inevitable. In his final months, Rex slowed down, spending more time resting in his favorite spots around the house. His appetite waned, and his once spry steps became more labored. Yet, through it all, his bond with the Thompsons never wavered. One rainy evening, Ethan found Rex lying in the living room, his breathing shallow but steady. The boy sat beside him, gently stroking his fur. "You're the best dog ever, Rex," he said, his voice cracking. "Thank you for being my friend." The family decided it was time to call Emma and Dr. Carter. When Emma arrived the next morning, she knelt beside Rex and ran her hand over his coat. "Hey, old friend," she said softly, tears brimming in her eyes. "You've done so much, Rex. You've given so much love." Dr. Carter, ever compassionate, explained their options to the family. They chose to let Rex pass peacefully at home, surrounded by the people who loved him most. As the family gathered around, Rex rested his head on Ethan's lap, his tail wagging one last time. The days that followed were filled with grief, but also with a profound sense of gratitude. The Thompsons decided to honor Rex's memory by becoming more involved in rescue work. They started volunteering at Emma's organization, sharing Rex's story as a testament to the transformative power of love and care. Lily used her photography skills to create a photo book chronicling Rex's journey, from his first cautious steps in Emma's home to his joyful moments with the family. The book, titled Rex, A Legacy of Hope, became a fundraising tool for Emma's Rescue Network, inspiring countless people to adopt and care for animals in need. 1 year later, the Thompsons planted a tree in their backyard, near Rex's favorite spot under the oak. They placed a small plaque at its base, in loving memory of Rex, a true survivor who taught us the meaning of resilience, love, and hope. As they stood around the tree, Mrs. Thompson spoke softly. "Rex may be gone, but his spirit will always be with us. He showed us what's possible when you believe in second chances. Emma nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. And because of him, so many other dogs will have their second chance too. Rex's story didn't end with his passing. It became a beacon of hope for others, proof that even the most broken can find healing, and even the most hopeless can find love. Leave your like, subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and if you've watched this far, comment, "I watched until the end," and share your thoughts about this story. Oh, and don't forget to watch the next video that appears on the end screen. It's incredibly exciting.